Calgary Flames made it official, naming 47-year-old Ryan Huska as their new head coach. Huska has been an assistant with Calgary over the past 5 seasons, the last 3 under former bench boss Daryl Sutter, who was fired at the start of May. Huska previously coached the Flames' AHL affiliate for 4 years after leading the Kelowna Rockets from 2007 to 2014.
It is a fresh start, and that is something that's cool because there's a different energy around the rink. There's a different level of optimism, and when you have that and you have good relationships with people coming in, there's an excitement and there's a buzz, and that's what you want. This team is going to play hard for each other. This team is going to do things the right way, the Flames way. And when I think of the Flames way, it's a very hard-working team. It's one that competes consistently and plays a smart brand of hockey.
No better person to talk about this particular move than Craig Button, our NHL analyst. And Craig, the Flames had options. There was a lot of talk about Gerard Gallant. There was some talk about Travis Green. There was talk about veteran coaches. But within, Calgary had a couple of real terrific candidates in Mitch Love, who is their AHL coach, and, of course, Ryan Huska, who is one of their assistants. Craig Conroy goes with Huska. Do you like that decision, Craig?
I absolutely like it. Ryan Huska has been a coach for 16 seasons, 11 as a head coach, 7 in Kelowna in the Western Hockey League. He won a championship, lots of success in the American Hockey League, and now 5 seasons with the Calgary Flames. He's got lots of experience. Jay, he is exactly like every other NHL coach that started his career in the NHL. 0 games coached. That doesn't preclude him from having experience. I think he's got the necessary experience. I think he understands very well what he's faced with. He understands that the team that he's taking has a lot of potential. He knows that the team didn't play up to its level last season, and now he can direct it in the proper course, in the proper fashion, in his fashion. The most important thing for Ryan Huska is just be authentic, just be who you are. And I don't have any question in my mind that that is what Ryan Huska will do. He's a dyed-in-the-wool competitor. He knows what winning's all about. He's done it as a player. He's done it as a coach. And I think that he had a really good example, probably going back to when he was a youngster with the Kamloops Blazers. Tom Rennie was the head coach in 1992 when they won the Memorial Cup. Ryan was younger. But then Tom Rennie left. Don Hay took over, the assistant. And all they did was win in 94 and 95. Ryan Huska was a big part of both those Memorial Cup championships. So he's going to go in. He's going to be demanding. He knows what it takes to win. And he's not going to be hesitant about putting demands on the players. But he's going to do it in a different way. And his way, I think, can be very successful.
Well, speaking of different ways, I mean, we know about the exit interviews. We know that players in the Calgary Flames were not thrilled with the way Daryl Sutter handled things last season. Huska was on the bench with Sutter, so it's a unique situation for him, isn't it? He witnessed what went on last year. He knows things have to change, and he absolutely has to get more out of Jonathan Huberdeau and Mackenzie Weegar and others. Do you feel he'll be able to do that?
Yeah, I have no doubt, Jay. You know, the situation in Calgary last season, and they just fell short of the playoffs with everything that was going on around them.
Yep.
I have said this many times. I will not stop saying this about Daryl Sutter. Daryl Sutter's a good coach. He didn't coach very well last year. So does that mean it was all on him? No, it wasn't all on him. Jacob Markstrom didn't have a good season. You just mentioned Jonathan Huberdeau, Mackenzie Weegar, Andrew Mangiapane. But what I will say to this is a team with lots of potential. To me, it's a very well-formed team. It's got all the necessary players in the right positions to have success. Ryan Huska knows that. And now Ryan Huska says that I want to make sure that I create an environment where the players can achieve to their potential, which will give the team an opportunity to perform to the level that is expected. I have no doubt in my mind the Calgary Flames will be in the playoffs next year with Ryan Huska as the head coach, and you will see players play up to their level of capability. Let's not forget here that when Daryl Sutter took over in his half a year, oh yeah, what's going to happen? He led them to 50 wins in a great season. Yep. I think Ryan Huska can do exactly the same thing.
Okay, moving on to the Winnipeg Jets, and Connor Hellebuyck's days in Winnipeg appear to be over, Craig. Hellebuyck not interested in a contract extension in Winnipeg, joining Pierre-Luc Dubois as another marquee name who will not sign long-term. Hellebuyck entering the final year of his deal. He'd be eligible to re-sign as of July 1, but he's without a no-move clause, therefore a primo trade chip.
Yeah, he's a primo trade chip. There's no doubt about it. But keep this in mind, too, is that when you look at Connor Hellebuyck and look at his record over the last 6 seasons, number 1 in games played by a goaltender, 2nd in wins only to Vasilevsky, 4th in save percentage of goaltenders that played 200 games or more. This is a Vezina caliber goaltender. And yes, Kevin Cheveldayoff is going to be able to explore a wide market for him. What I would say, Jay, is teams around the league, unless your name is Andrei Vasilevsky, I don't know how many teams have a goaltender of this caliber. So teams around the league have to look at Connor Hellebuyck and have to look at his availability and say, what's it going to take? What's the price that it's going to be for us to acquire this goaltender? Because this goaltender is a game changer. He is the type of goaltender that can get things settled when you're not playing at your best. When things are going sideways, he doesn't go sideways. That's the type of goaltender Connor Hellebuyck is. There's not very many in the National Hockey League. I think Kevin Cheveldayoff will have a smorgasbord of offers for Connor Hellebuyck, and it'll be very interesting to see where he lands and who is bold enough to pay the price.
And Craig, you know, there's conventional wisdom now. You look at the fact that Adin Hill's in Vegas. You can't really predict goaltending as much as you used to be able to predict it, but you make such great points. He is an outlier. He is a difference maker. He is someone you truly put all the chips in to go for. So what will it take to get Connor Hellebuyck, Craig? What kind of package would you actually have to put together to get this guy?
I think it all depends, Jay. I mean, given a choice of paying more rather than less, you're going to take less every time. That's what managers always try to do. They don't want to pay the highest price. They want to pay the lowest price. So this is where Kevin Cheveldayoff is in the driver's seat. He can dictate what that price is. And when I use the term bold, that's what it's going to have to take for a team to say, you might not want to hear what Kevin Cheveldayoff says to you over the phone, and it may make you feel a little bit uneasy. But when you're looking at this caliber of player, this caliber of goaltender, you have to put aside some of those uneasy feelings and say, what does his addition mean to our team? And I think that's where the biggest part of the equation is about a team looking to acquire this type of goaltender says, yeah, we're willing to pay the price. I'll give you an example. In 1995, we had a wonderful young player in our organization by the name of Jarome Iginla. Joe Nieuwendyk was on the market, unexpectedly so. We were trying to build out our team up the middle of the ice, and when Al Coates started to mention Jarome Iginla, trust me, we weren't comfortable hearing that name. But as time went on, we were left with a choice. Either pay the price of Jarome Iginla to get Joe Nieuwendyk or not get Joe Nieuwendyk. We swallowed hard, and we made the trade. We know how it turned out for the Dallas Stars and for the Calgary Flames. But at the time, you have to be willing to say, that's the price and we'll pay it. Because Al Coates never wavered. Kevin Cheveldayoff doesn't have to waver on his price, depending on who he's talking to.
But, you know, we know Cheveldayoff isn't interested in a rebuild. So are we talking like top 6 forward here, Craig? Are we talking top 4 defenseman in return to Winnipeg?
I don't know, Jay. I really don't know. Honestly, when I say I don't know, we can sit here, first-round draft pick, prospect, whatever, and, you know, depending on what people are ready to offer, you got to take that all into consideration. You know, top 6 forward, well, what's the top 6 forward look like? How old is the top 6 forward? Top 4 defenseman. Well, what is that defenseman? What's the contract status? What does it all mean? These are all unknowns right now. Only Kevin Cheveldayoff is going to know. I'm going to go back to 1995. Do you know how many teams were so bold enough to come up to us after we made the trade and trying to tell us that Jarome Iginla wasn't a very good player? It just told me how little they knew about players. So I'd be really careful about trying to say this guy or that guy. I listened to it in 1995. I laughed then. I laugh just as hard now.
Okay, speaking of guys who know players, this guy knows players, especially prospects. And no surprise as we take a look at your latest Craigslist for the upcoming National Hockey League draft. Connor Bedard remains the runaway favorite to go first overall to Chicago, but still some intrigue after that. And I'm specifically thinking about Matvei Michkov, and he has been an intriguing guy. Again, just to recap, if you were to draft Michkov this year, Craig, you don't get him for a few years. He's tied to the KHL for a few years, so you're sort of taking a chance on his talent that down the road that could potentially help you. Do you see him going there at 4 specifically without a doubt, or do you think teams will still have a little bit of hesitancy because of the fact that they might not get him for a couple of seasons?
My list is not about where they're going to go. My list is a projection of where players I think could be in 3 to 5 years once they've matured. So it's not hey, he could go number 2.
Yep.
He could go number 2 right to the Anaheim Ducks. You know, to me, I wouldn't raise an eyebrow if Pat Verbeek drafted him. Paul Kariya was the first ever pick to the Anaheim Mighty Ducks. Pat Verbeek worked in Tampa Bay. Oh, yeah, there was Nikita Kucherov there. Pat Verbeek played in Detroit. Oh, yeah, look at all the Russians that were there. I think you got to look at where your team is at and understand that, like you're trying to compete now, and the teams that are out of the playoffs that are picking high, they're not close to being contenders. So if you're trying to acquire talent, which is what the draft is all about, and you look at Matvei Michkov and you think that he's that capable and that good, and you just have to wait 3 years, I see zero risk in drafting Matvei Michkov. It's just about understanding what you're going to wait for. And then think about this, Jay. If he comes over at 21 and he's on an entry-level contract and he's performing at an elite level or close to an elite level, how much value is there in that contract at 21 years of age? No risk for me with Matvei Michkov, only upside.
I couldn't agree more. Craig, the NHL Draft is June the 28th in Nashville, and this guy is going to be there with our own Darren Dreger. I can't wait to talk to these guys from Nashville. It's going to be so much. You're going to talk to me in Nashville, right, Craig? You're not just going to hang out at the honky tonks, right?
Listen, honky tonks. Darren and I already have our rooftop spot on above Tootsie's. That's where you'll be talking to us from.
Sounds actually pretty cool.